Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Toror Eva Sahishnuna Amanina Manatena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva 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 Gatiranyata. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda 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 Jaya Jaya Govinda Hari Gopala Hari Jaya Rama Hari Jaya Krishna Hari Jaya Jaya Deva Hari Jaya Jaya Deva Hari Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari. Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Following in the footsteps of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, I offer my blessings and respects to all my listeners here on this Zoom webcast. You are all devotees of Krishna. Krishna is in your heart, and I must offer you due respect because Krishna is in your heart. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today is a glorious day. We are studying the 12th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, entitled Bhakti Yoga, or Devotional Service. Prabhupada writes in his commentary that there are 18 chapters in Bhagavad-gita, and those 18 are divided into 6 chapters, 3 sections, 6 chapters each. We are now finishing the middle 6 chapters, which Prabhupada says are the most important chapters in Bhagavad-gita. And this 12th chapter is the conclusion of these middle 6, Bhakti Yoga. There are various definitions of Bhakti Yoga. I'm going to give you 2. One is by the great Saint Narada Muni. He has composed his Narada Bhakti Sutra, so he is an expert on bhakti. He is called the Bhakti Shakta Avatar. He is a kind of incarnation of Krishna, empowered to teach bhakti. So what does Narada give as his definition of bhakti? Sarva upadi vinirmuktam tat padat vena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. Bhaktir uchate means bhakti is defined, or bhakti is called Sarva upadi vinirmuktam. First thing, become free of all designations. Designations having to do with the material body. I am man, I am woman, I am Indian, I am Panamanian, I am this, I am that. These are all temporary designations on the soul. When we began our Bhagavad-gita study in chapter 2, we learned from Krishna the fundamental principle, the difference between the body and the soul. And the whole focus of Bhagavad-gita has been on understanding and realizing oneself as the soul. So sarva upadi, become free from all temporary material designations. Tat padat vena nirmalam, now live a pure life. Don't engage in sinful activities. Live a pure, healthy life. Tat padat vena nirmalam. And then, now the most important line. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam. Rishik means the senses. You have 11 senses. We will learn more about that. You have 5 knowledge-acquiring senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. You have 5 working senses: hands, legs, throat, genital, anus. And then you have the hidden sense, the mind, the heart. That's called the 11th sense. So with those senses, rishikena, with those senses, sevanam, serve Rishika Isha, the master of the senses. Already in this Bhagavad-gita, several times Arjuna has called Krishna Rishikesha or Rishika Isha. You put them together, Rishika Isha becomes Rishikesha. So the master of the senses, the controller of the senses, is Krishna. So bhakti means with your senses, with your material senses, render service with those senses. That's Narada's basic definition of bhakti. The other definition is given by the great saint Prahlad Maharaj. When he was asked by his father, Prahlad was only 5 years old, and one day his father said, "Prahlad, come sit on my lap. I want to know what you are learning in your school." That school was run by the sons of Shukra Acharya. Shukracharya was the Purohit for Hiranyakashipu. Shanda and Amarka were his sons, and they were training Prahlad as well as other sons of the demons, Daityas. So Hiranyakashipu wanted to know from his son, "What are you learning?" And Prahlad answered, very interesting. He said, I'm not learning anything in that school. As far as I know, Tanmanyeditam uttamam. The best education I got from my spiritual master when I was in the womb of your wife, in my mother's womb. Yes, Narada Muni personally instructed Prahlad's mother. She was taking refuge at his ashram because Indra and the demigods were trying to kidnap Kayadu, Prahlad's mother. Hiranyakashipu was away performing austerities. So Indra and the demigods were going to capture Kayadu, wait for her to deliver the child and kill the child because they thought, oh, the child in this womb must be another demon like their father. We have an expression, like father, like son, but Narada stopped them. No, you cannot touch this child. He is protected by Krishna. So Kayadu needed some protection. So Narada took Kayadu to his ashram. And during that time, he instructed her in Bhakti Yoga. But she did not pick up on it. But the child in the womb was hearing everything and learned everything. So Prahlad told his father, the best thing I have learned from my spiritual master, Shravana Kirtana, Smarana Vandana, Pada Sevana, Dasyare, Pujana Sakijana, Atman Nivedana. Of course, that's the Bengali. The Sanskrit is a little different. Most of them are the same, but that's the song. So Prahlad was telling Hiranyakashipu, the topmost knowledge is these 9 items of bhakti, Nava Lakshanam, which you are doing the first one, Shravanam, hearing about God. Then Kirtanam, singing, describing, preaching, chanting about God. Then Smaranam, remembering. Vandanam, offering prayers. Archanam, worshiping in the temple, the deity. Then Archanam, offering prayers. And then serving the Lord's lotus feet, like Lakshmi Ji, you see so many pictures. Lakshmi is massaging the feet of Narayan. Then you have just rendering service, like Hanuman is the eternal servant of Ram. Even he was asked to take a benediction. Hanuman said, no, I simply want to eternally serve you, Ram. I simply want to hear constantly Ramayan and be your servant. And then the next process is a Sakyam, being the close friend, Arjuna. He is close friend of Krishna. And then the last item, Atmanavedanam, full surrender, complete surrender, like Bali Maharaj, who gave the Lord the universe and even his own head. So these are the 9 processes of bhakti. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And if you perfect even one, you will go back to the kingdom of God. Complete liberation, eternal liberation. Just become expert in one, either by hearing, by chanting, remembering, praying, worshiping. Perfect one, and your life is successful. Okay, so I have broken out this 12th chapter of Bhagavad-gita into 3 sections. The first is very important because it deals with a topic that is repeatedly asked throughout the ages. This question has been asked since the dawn of time. It is a fundamental question of Vedic knowledge. Entitled these first 7 verses, The Personalist versus the Impersonalist. Because there are 2 schools of transcendental thought. To make a joke, just like you can be a Mac user or a PC user. The Mac people think they are superior. And the PC users also think, no, we're superior. So in the same way, there are 2 schools of transcendentalists. One is the personalist, the other is the impersonalist. Arjuna uvacha, evang satata yuktaye, bhaktas twang paryupasate, ye chap yaksharam abhyaktam, te shanke yoga vittama. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So there it is, the 2 schools. The personalists, they accept the process of bhakti, direct service to God in a personal form. The impersonalists want to deal with Brahman, the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth, the all-pervading, impersonal, spiritual energy. There is a Vedic mantra, Brahma Sarvidam Kal... Well, wait. Sarvam Kalvidang Brahma. Sarvam Kalu Idang Brahma. Everything is Brahman. Everything is spiritual. That's a Vedic mantra. So the impersonalists, that is their philosophy. Everything is just ultimately the impersonal spiritual energy. They do not recognize the personal form of the Lord. That's as far as they go, the impersonal aspect. So Arjuna is asking Krishna this question: who's better? Who's more perfect? Let's see what Krishna says. Shri Bhagavan uvacha maya vesha mano ye mang nitya yukta upasate sraddhaya parayo petas te me yukta tamamata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and who are always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So if you have been following along so far carefully, and if you have learned anything in the previous 11 chapters, this verse should not be a surprise to you. Why Krishna would say, well, in my opinion, you should worship my personal form and engage in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith. If you have been seriously and conscientiously following this statement by Krishna should be something you expected. Now Krishna continues, Ye tvaksharang anirdeshyam avyaktang paryupasate sarvatragam achintyang cha kutastam achalang dhruvam saniyam yendriya gramang sarvatra samabuddhayaha te prapnuvanti mam eva sarva bhutahite rata. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. This reminds us of what we learned in chapter 7. In chapter 7, there was a very important verse. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavang mang prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. In that verse, in chapter 7, what did Krishna say? After many, many births of being a jnani or impersonalist, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, one comes to the realization that everything is Vasudeva or Krishna. Vasudeva means the son of Krishna. Vasudeva means, the son of Vasudeva, not the son of Krishna. The son of Vasudeva, Vasudev. And the other meaning of Vasudev, all-pervading, everywhere, existing. So those who practice this, and Krishna says here, at last achieve me. After many, many, many births of mental speculation and doing all these things mentioned, one will come to the conclusion, he says here, at last achieve me, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. But this next verse, Krishna makes it even more clear. Klesho adikataras tesham, avyakta sakta chetasam, avyakta hi gatir dukam, de havadbir avapyate. So, look at that word, dukam. That is not a good word. Dukam means suffering. So what does Krishna say? For those whose minds are attached to that unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. In other words, this impersonalist path is difficult, troublesome, dukam. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. And who's not embodied in this material world? We're all embodied. So this is a clever way of Krishna saying, I already said, those who worship my personal form are most perfect. And those who don't, those who want to follow the impersonal path, trouble, very trouble. The best example I give, there is a building in New York, the Empire State Building. It's over 100 stories. So, if you want, you can take the stairway one floor at, I wouldn't last more than 5 stories. My heart would give out. Others, they'll take the elevator. When I went to Kuala Lumpur some years ago, they also had one of the tallest buildings in the world. And they have this elevator that you go 100 floors like this, boom, very quickly. It's astounding. And when you go to the top, you can see all around the city of Kuala Lumpur. Now, if you wanted to take the stairs, maybe after a half an hour you'll reach the top. So the impersonalists, we already said in chapter 7, after many, many births. So use your intelligence, Krishna is saying here. He's implying. Because we also learned in chapter 9 why the personalist or bhakti path is better. This one line, susukam kartum avyayam. Susukam. Dukam and sukam are two opposite. Sukam means happy, but this is susukam, very happy. This bhakti marg, the path of devotional service, is extremely happy, easy, joyfully performed. The impersonal path, Krishna is saying, trouble, trouble, trouble. Why take the trouble? Take the easy, simple, happy path. That's why I am a devotee. I didn't join this Hare Krishna movement to perform severe penances and austerities. No. I want the process which is happy. Even there is one song about Lord Chaitanya, Kevala Anandakanda. Lord Chaitanya's program is simply blissful. What is the religion I join? The religion is chant, dance, take prasad. That's my path. Yes, not press my nose and turn my body into a pretzel and sit in blazing fire in the hot sun, or submerge myself in freezing cold water in the winter. I'm not going to sign up for that. Susukam. Kevala Anandakanda. I want the process which is easy. And don't think, oh, Nirantar is a cop-out. No, I'm doing what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying, you worship my personal form, you're the best. Susukam, it's joyfully performed. That's why I do this preaching. Why? Because it makes me very happy. I enjoy it. I love doing this. I become ecstatic. That's the Bhakti Marg. All right, Krishna's not yet done answering this question. Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matpara ananyenaiva yogena mang jayanta upasate teshamahang sumudharta mrityu sangsara sagarat bhavami nachirat parta maya veshita chetasam. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having their minds fixed upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So when you become a surrendered devotee of Krishna, Krishna will deliver you from material existence. The impersonalist has to achieve liberation by his own strength, by virtue of his own austerities and penances. And again, it's going to take many, many lifetimes to achieve that realization of Brahman. Whereas for the devotee, Krishna says, I am the swift deliverer. So, Krishna has answered Arjuna's questions from both sides, the pros and the cons. That's what makes an argument succinct. You give the pros and you give the cons. All right, now the next section is entitled Divisions of Faith, or I subtitle it Options Program. Just like when you buy an insurance policy, there are so many options. You can get full coverage, or maybe you don't need full coverage. So the insurance company says, okay, you only pay this much, but your coverage is only this. Not everybody gets the same coverage. There are options. So Krishna has an options program. He's going to start at the top and end at the baseline. So here's the top. Mayevam na atatsva mayi buddhing niveshaya niveshasyasya mayeva atar udvang nasangshaya. So here's the topmost platform. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. That's it. There's the topmost platform. Just like a businessman, if he's really wants to make it, then he has to put all his energy into his business. He thinks about his business night and day, while he's eating, while he's sleeping. He's only thinking about the business because he knows, I have to achieve my goal. So for the devotee, if you want to achieve Krishna, that is what is required. Complete dedication of mind, heart, soul. Even Jesus said the same thing. In the Bible, it is said, Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? Jesus replied, love God with your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus considered that the topmost commandment. Very similar to what we learn in Bhagavad-gita. Krishna says, we'll get to that in chapter 18 next year, that you simply surrender to me. And already Krishna has said several times, he's saying it in this chapter, and he said it before. Here in this verse, just fix your mind upon me. That requires love. When you want to constantly think of something, you need to have some attachment. He mentioned that at the beginning of chapter 7. Developing attachment for him. So by hearing and by chanting, gradually we're developing firm attachment to Krishna. Just like I used to be a musician in my pre-devotee days. That's all I was thinking about, music, trying to make it as a rock and roll star in New York City. It was consuming me 24 hours a day. I was into music, but now I'm into Krishna. I still play music, not that I lost anything, but everything is centered around Krishna. Another mundane example. Before someone gets married, he's doing this, he's doing that, but after marriage, no. Here is your attention, wife and children. That's enough to keep you busy. Wife and children and paying the bills. You're no longer free to do whatever you want. So if you want Krishna, it requires full dedication. All right, Krishna knows not many people are going to be able to do that. So, second option. Atachittang samadhatung na shokshnoshi mayi stiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. So that's the platform I'm on, and you are gradually coming to that stage as well. Following the regulative principles of Bhakti. In other words, regularly chanting, regularly reading the scriptures, following Ekadasi, doing so many principles, so many items of Bhakti. And you do it on a regulated basis, every day without fail. That begins when you accept a spiritual master. And the spiritual master gives you a daily regimen of how to fix your mind on Krishna by a gradual process. As he says here, in this way, develop a desire to attain me. Because once you have that desire that I must get Krishna, no more rules and regulations apply. Because you will automatically do everything. Once you are convinced, I want Krishna and nothing else. When you become determined, you don't need rules and regulations. Because that desire to attain Krishna consumes you. You become a madman. I'll do whatever it takes to achieve Krishna. For instance, one time, the gopis were approached by Narada. Oh, gopis, Krishna has a headache. And the gopis said, what? What should we do? And Narada said, well, Krishna says the only thing that will relieve his headache is the dust from your feet. And the gopis said, that's all? Okay, take as much as you want. But Narada said, but you know that if you give the dust of your feet to Krishna, you're going to go to hell for that offense. The gopis said, we don't care. We only care that Krishna's headache goes away. That's the degree to which you have to be willing to serve Krishna at any cost, at any price. Prabhupada calls it laulyam, intense greed to achieve Krishna's association. The businessman, if he's shrewd, he'll do whatever it takes to clinch that deal. Whatever it takes, wine, dine, lie, whatever, I must get that deal. So in the same way, when you become mad for Krishna, you're willing to do anything. You have laulyam, intense greed, and that's the price of the ticket to go back to Godhead. You have to want it more than anything else. And Maya will come. Oh, you don't want that. You want something else. So at certain point, you have to tell Maya, go away. Talk to the hand. I want Krishna. Don't tempt me, Maya, with your nonsense. Go away, because I want Krishna. Not so easy to do. All right? Then there's a third option. Abhyasepya samartosi madkarma paramo bhava mad artam api karmani kuravan siddham abapsyasi. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. So, for so many reasons, you may not be able to accept a spiritual master and the spiritual discipline and the strict rules and regulations and religiously. Krishna says, okay, work for me. So anyone can do that. Anyone can work. Ajit, you can work for Krishna. How? You're a school, right? You go to school. So every day when you begin your studies, you say, Krishna, I offer this to you. You business people, you can offer every day when you begin, Krishna, I offer this day to you. Mothers, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're taking care of your children. When you start your day, I'm doing this for you, Krishna. Anything, you just offer it to Krishna. At least it's a beginning. And Krishna says, you will come to the perfect stage because you have indicated to Krishna that you want to begin. That's all that's required. You have indicated, Krishna, there's a part of me that wants you. And then Krishna will help you along the way. Then there's yet another option. This is why I like Krishna. He gives you so many options. Untitled apyashaktosi kartung mad yogam ashrita sarva karma phalatyagam tatak guru yatatmavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. That's the next option. Now we come to the final. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnana dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phalatyagas tyagachantir anantaram. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So those are the different options Krishna allows you. The final verses of this chapter, verses 13 to 20, is the description of the purest devotee. There are different levels of devotees. Technically, Kanishta or neophyte, Madhyam, middle class, and Uttama, topmost, pure devotee. So, this remaining section is about the Uttam Adhikari, the topmost pure devotee, the one that was able to fulfill the first option. Advaishta sarva bhutanang maitra karana evacha nirmamo nirahankara samaduka sukha kshami santushta satatang yogi yatatma dridha nishchayaha mayarpita mano buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha. One who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think oneself proprietor, and who is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, who is always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, and one's mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So as you hear these verses, you'll be able to see how far along you are on the path. Actually, when I read these verses, I get very embarrassed. I go, oh my God, I have such a long way to go. Because to be on this platform, whew, very, very high standard. Yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chaya, harshamarsha bayodvegaya, muktaya sachame priya. One for whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. So you could give the example of Prahlad. Prahlad was such a great, exalted devotee. He didn't put anyone into difficulty. He was not, even though his father tried to torture him and kill him, Prahlad was undisturbed. He was protected. Anapeksha shuchir daksha udasino vyata sarvaramba parityagi yomad bhakta same priya. My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities like Hanuman. Hanuman was given many tasks during the Ramayana, but he was not deterred. When he was not able to bring the herbs, what did he do? He said, well, I can't bring the herbs, I'll bring the whole mountain. So Hanuman was not deterred, didn't depend on ordinary course. He was whatever it takes, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result. That means not striving for some personal result. Hanuman had a duty to perform, so the result was for Ram, but Hanuman had no personal result. Is very dear to me. Yo na rishyati na dveshti, na sochati na kankshati, shubha shubha parityagi, bhakti manya same priya. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me, because the devotee has only one thought: how can I satisfy my Lord? Personally, the devotee has no cares. The devotees only thought how to serve my Lord. Prabhupada gives us a very good example. The closest thing in the material world that we can draw an analogy would be the mother's love for the child. You mothers know what I'm talking about. You all know what you had to do when you had your child, who was taking care of the child 24 hours a day. The baby is completely dependent on mother. Father is off going to work, doing this or that. Who's taking care of the baby? It's the mother. And the mother will deny herself sleep, food, because her only concern is the child. Am I right, mothers? Yes. Meenakshi knows. Yes. All you mothers know. I saw it with my own wife. Still, my daughter is over 40 years old. Daughter comes first before me. Yes. The daughter calls, goodbye. But that's all right because I understand the philosophy. Not a problem. I understand. It is natural. It is God's arrangement. Yes, it is a beautiful thing. The mother's love for the child is the best example we have to understand what this love of God is like. The devotee will do anything for the Lord. Samakshatrao cha mitre cha tatamana pamanayo shitoshna sukha dukeshu samasanga vivarjita tulyaninda stutir mauni santushto yena kenachit aniketa stirap matir bhaktiman me priyo nara. One who is equal to friends and enemies, like Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir never wanted any harm to the Kauravas. Even when Duryodhana was captured in that one incident, and Bhima and Arjuna, oh, we got him now. Let's finish him off. What did Yudhishthir say? Let him go. Ugh, Yudhishthir, what are you doing? This guy has done so much nonsense. He's tried to hurt you inside. But Yudhishthir is a good example. Let him go. Ah, I read that part of the Mahabharata and I go, this Yudhishthir is too good. It's too good. One who is equipoised in honor and dishonor. Yes, they were humiliated in the gambling match and they were banished to the forest, but they never gave up their morality and piety. They accepted. Yudhishthir knew he was being cheated. He knew it. But just to show obedience to Dhritarashtra, he went along. He knew that they were going to be cheated. But just to show submission and to set the example, he agreed to the whole thing. Who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence. In fact, Yudhishthir would sometimes say, I actually prefer living in the forest than living in the kingdom. Because in the forest, I have the association of all these rishis and sadhus. I don't have to deal with the nasty politics of Indraprastha. Yudhishthir was thinking, actually, I'm much happier here in the forest. Who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Final verse. Ye tu dharmamritam idang yadhoktang paryupasate sraddhadhana mat padama bhaktaste tiva me priya. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. So yes, this much I can claim. Back in 1973, I decided to make Krishna my supreme goal. So At least I got one thing going for myself. The other verses that we just read, I'm far off the mark. But at least I can say, yes, I have made Krishna my supreme goal. And yes, I have faith in Krishna. It's all due to my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. The reason why we read this Bhagavad-gita is to develop faith. So if you see your faith is starting to wane, get back and start reading Bhagavad-gita. And if you read Bhagavad-gita, you will develop faith in Krishna. Or, better than that, is to read the Krishna book, the life story of Krishna. That gave me so much faith in Krishna. I read 6 chapters, and after Krishna killed Putana, I closed the book and said, I'm joining Krishna's movement, because I understand Krishna is God. Namaste Narasimhaya Prahlada Klada Dayane Hiranya Kashi Purvakshaha Shila Tanga Nakalaye Ito Nasringa Pada To Nasringo Yato Yato Yamita To Nasringa Bahir Nasringo Hridaye Nasringa Nrsingham Adim Sharanam Prapadye Nrsingham Adim Sharanam Prapadye Nrsingham Adim Sharanam Prapadye Tavakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narahadi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Jai Jagadisha Jai Jagadisha Hare. Everybody unmute yourselves, and if you've not turned on your video, I can't bless you. I can only bless those who I see in the video. So come out of the darkness and into the light. Turn on your video and get what is right. Haribol. Okay.